Good afternoon, everyone. Today I have a short little Bible study on Genesis 1 3 through 7, and I'm calling it The Great Deception. Now I'll go ahead and read the verses. Now the serpent was more cunning than any beast of the field which the Lord God had made. And he said to the woman, Has God indeed said, You shall not eat of every tree of the garden? In verse 6 of this chapter, we learn that both Adam and Eve were present at this time. God had put man and woman together to guard the garden and to strengthen each other. Now there's a couple of word plays here when you read the text in Hebrew. Okay, hopefully I don't butcher these words. I'm trying to learn Hebrew, so just give me a little grace on this. But in Hebrew, the word for snake is nakash, which is also, it sounds like the Hebrew word for divination, which is nahash. Now, divination is trying to discern what is good without going to God. In Genesis 2:25, it says, and they were both naked, the man and his wife, and were not ashamed. And there's another word play here with naked, which is aromim, and this is the plural form for naked in Hebrew. The word for cunning in Genesis 3:1, which we just read, is arum. And Adam and Eve didn't see the danger in listening to the serpent. Genesis 3:2 through 5. And the woman said to the serpent, We may eat the fruit of the trees of the garden, but of the fruit of the tree which is in the midst of the garden, God has said, You shall not eat it, nor shall you touch it, lest you die. And then the serpent said to the woman, You will not surely die, for God knows that in the day you eat of it, your eyes will be opened, and you will be like God, knowing good and evil. Adam and Eve didn't see the danger in listening to the serpent. The snake called into question what God said. He calls into question God's motivation for Adam and Eve to not eat the fruit. He doesn't outright say for Adam and Eve to eat the fruit, but just implies that God is holding out goodness from them. He also implies for them to seize the goodness for themselves, instead of waiting for God to give it to them. In Genesis 3:6 and 7. So when the woman saw that the tree was good for food, that it was pleasant to the eyes, and a tree desirable to make one wise, she took of its fruit and ate. She also gave to her husband with her, and he ate. Then the eyes of both of them were opened, and they knew that they were naked, and they sewed fig leaves together and made themselves coverings. You see in these verses that Adam didn't stop Eve from getting the fruit or caution her against eating it. In Genesis 2:16 and 17, it says, And the Lord God commanded the man, Of every tree of the garden you may freely eat, but of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil you shall not eat, for in the day you eat of it you shall surely die. This was before Eve was created. So Adam had first-hand knowledge from God to not eat that fruit. It was Adam's job to teach Eve and to speak with her before she erred. Genesis 3:7 says that their eyes were opened. The first thing they noticed was their shame. Will we as humans trust that God's instructions for us are for our own good? Or will we insist on fighting out the hard way? Will we help each other obey, or stand by silently watching while our spouse, friends, families, co-workers, and neighbors struggle or sin? God has called us to lift each other up, not to condemn one another. The knowledge Adam and Eve received was of their own nakedness, their own shame. So now we have a tragedy of these humans who once walked intimately with God are now hiding from God and each other. But in Genesis, skip ahead, in Genesis 3:21, Well, we find that even though they both sinned, God in his mercy provides clothes for them. God provided what they needed to deal with their shame that they had caused. Even though we sin and cause our own separation from God, God is still merciful to us and answers us because he loves us. So, the takeaway from this is, I think that we should just lift each other up, as much as we can. We're not sent here to condemn each other, but, if you see somebody struggling, speak to them. If they don't want to hear you, at least you did what you could. And I think, God tries to deal with all of us, We just need to open up our ears and try and listen to what he's trying to say to us. So, like I said, this is just a small one that I have today. If you guys need prayer or anything, just message me up below. I can, put you on my prayer list. But next I'll be dealing with God in the garden, trying to find them, and that has a lot to go with it as well, but I'll talk about that later. But like I said, if you guys need any prayer or anything, just message me. Love you guys.